1997, Mark Griffin lost his life due to the fact that Jordan Archer was intoxicated, got behind the wheel of a car, and caused the accident that took Griffin's life that night. This is a case of a kid who could not handle the responsibilities that go along with partying and drinking. Now let's go back to Castle Creek where the night began. This was a party that Jordan knew there was going to be beer there. He knew that all of his old buddies from high school were going to be there, and he knew that they were going to be partying, having fun, remembering the good old times from high school. Now, testimony from Pat Falcon will tell you today that he saw Archer many times that night, each time with the beer cup in his hand. And he will also testify that this was no surprise to him because Jordan definitely had a reputation for being a partier and a drinker. Now, after spending the night partying down at Castle Creek, Jordan then got in his car and headed home down County Road 1. Now, testimony from Deputy Sam Drake will tell you that after the accident, Jordan had many signs that he was intoxicated that night. He will also testify that during his investigations that he found beer cans in Jordan's car, also supporting the fact that Jordan had been drinking that night. And last, he will tell you that Jordan Archer refused to take the sobriety test. Now, why would somebody who had nothing to hide refuse to take a test who could clear his name? We'll also hear testimony from Jesse Eagle today. Jesse was a passenger in the car with Mark Griffin that night. Jesse's testimony will tell you that Jordan's characteristics and his behavior that night suggested that he had been drinking and intoxicated. And he will also tell you that they had been driving on this road for 10 miles and had never seen one animal, nothing blocking the road in any way. But then in the time that they saw Jordan Archer first, to the time of the accident, Jordan swerved 4 times, claiming that he saw a possum. Now I ask you not to be swayed by the biased testimony from the defense. Do keep in mind that Chris Bishop is a good, lifelong friend of Jordan Archer. So in closing, I pray that you will find Jordan Archer guilty of first-degree manslaughter by misdemeanor.
The defense may give their opening argument.
Your Honor, you have heard what the prosecution had to say, and now we are here to prove to you that there is actually a whole different side to this story. Defense will call 3 witnesses, R.J. Castle, Chris Bishop, and the defendant, Jordan Archer. On the evening of July 4th, Jordan Archer and Chris Bishop attended the reunion party together. They had decided well before the party that Jordan would be the designated driver. She had been having allergy problems that day, so she had no problem staying away from alcohol that night. We anticipate that Jordan Archer's testimony will confirm the fact that she had been having allergies that day and that she did not drink at all that day or night. A little before 1 in the morning of July 5th, Miss Archer and Mr. Bishop left the party. They were driving home on County Road 1 when Miss Archer saw a small animal and swerved to avoid hitting it. Less than a minute later, she saw another small animal and again swerved. When she swerved this time, she saw oncoming headlights, but since it was such a clear night, she could tell she had plenty of time to get back into her own lane before the 2 cars met. The driver of the other car, Mark Griffin, seemed to have thought differently because when he saw the oncoming headlights, he swerved to his right. We anticipate R.J. Castle will testify that she saw Archer's car re-enter the correct lane with plenty of room to spare. We also anticipate that you will hear from Chris Bishop that he had to turn completely around in the car to see Mark Griffin's car veering toward the right side of the road. We anticipate through these testimonies that you will see that this accident was caused by the misjudgment of Mark Griffin. Thank you.
The state may call their first witness.
The state calls Deputy Sam Drake.
Sam Drake, please come forward. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth? The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
That's okay. You may proceed.
Would you please state your name and occupation for the court?
My name's Sam Drake, and I'm Deputy Sheriff from Cheyenne County
Mr. Drake, how long have you been Deputy Sheriff?
for 7 years.
Did you have any previous training prior to being the Deputy Sheriff?
Yes, I have.
Would you please describe that for the court?
I'm CLEAT certified. I've had 50 hours of education in alcoholic-related offenses, and I'm an expert in revolver and semi-automatic firearms.
Now, Mr. Drake, would you describe for us what happened in the early morning hours of July 5th?
At 1 o'clock in the morning, I was dispatched to County Road 1, a quarter mile west of Cemetery Road, on an accident involving personal injury.
Now, Mr. Drake, what did you observe when you arrived at the scene?
When I got there, I seen a 1995 Dodge Neon facing east on the south side of the road, and a 1992 brown Nissan Maxima facing west on the north side, lodged against a tree.
Mr. Drake, what was your impression?
Appeared to be unsteady on his feet and intoxicated.
What gave you the impression he was intoxicated?
He had watery and bloodshot eyes, and he smelled of beer.
What steps did you take after talking with Jordan Archer?
I offered him a series of field sobriety tests and a breathalyzer test, which he refused, saying that he would not take any of the stupid tests.
He refused both?
Yes, he did.
Mr. Drake, in your many years of experience, why would someone refuse taking a breathalyzer test or a field test?
Probably because they had something to hide.
Okay. Who was the passenger of the Dodge Neon?
Chris Bishop.
What was your impression of Mr. Bishop at this time?
Mr. Bishop was highly intoxicated and definitely had too much to drink that night.
What comments, if any, had he made to you about the mood in the car right before this accident?
Said the radio was turned up and they were speeding through the night.
Besides interviewing Bishop and Archer and Jesse Eagle, what other steps or procedures did you go through?
I took a sketch of the accident and placed Chris Bishop under arrest after I read him his Miranda rights for public intoxication, and Jordan Archer under arrest for DUI.
What procedures concerning the Dodge Neon did you take?
I took a search of the Dodge Neon.
Now, what evidence, if any, did you find in this car pertaining to Jordan Archer?
There were 2 open Coors Light cans in the car.
Okay. Who else did you question about what had happened at the party at Castle Creek?
Pat Falcon.
Now, what did she tell you about Jordan Archer's behavior, or in fact Chris Bishop's behavior at that party?
Said they were both having a really good time, and said that he had saw Jordan Archer with beer cups in his hand about 4 times that night.
Thank you. Any further questions?
The defense may cross-examine at this time.
Mr. Drake, when you came on the scene of the accident, do you recall Archer saying that you're not going to pin this on me?
Yes, I do.
Do you know why he said this?
Probably out of fear.
Isn't it true that you gave Archer a ticket for running a red light prior to this?
Yes, I did.
He contested that ticket, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
That's the reason why he made the statement, isn't it?
I don't know why he made the statement.
You remembered that incident, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Sorry. You don't like Jordan very much, do you?
He's just another person. I don't have a grudge against him or anybody else.
Did Archer appear unsteady on his feet?
Yes, he did.
Could this be because his car had just been run into a ditch and a major accident had occurred?
It's possible.
You stated that his eyes were watery and bloodshot. What time did this accident occur?
It was 1 o'clock in the morning.
1 o'clock in the morning. Could you see his eyes?
Yes, I could.
Is it dark at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, it is.
Pretty dark, so you couldn't get a very good look at his
It's
eyes.
usually lighted up around the accident, though. There's usually headlights and stuff. You can see things.
Did you detect alcohol on his person or his breath?
He just smelled real strongly of beer.
But where did you smell this beer?
It was coming from everywhere.
Did you smell his breath?
I didn't get right in his face and smell his breath, no.
So you can't say that you smelled it on his breath.
No, I can say I smelled beer.
But normally associated with the drinking of alcohol is that of the smell of alcohol on one's breath, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. You didn't smell alcohol in his breath, though, did you? You asked Jordan to take a sobriety test, did you not?
Yes, I did.
He refused, didn't he?
Yes.
Why?
Probably.
He does not know why. He refused taking these tests.
Are your grounds for objection speculation? Sustained.
Your Honor, I was just trying to ask his opinion.
No, your question was speculative. The objection's been sustained. Please rephrase your question or ask another one.
Oh, okay. Did you interview R.J. Castle?
No, I did not. He just made a statement to me.
Why didn't you interview him?
I didn't think it was reasonable to interview him. I didn't figure he'd seen it.
Do you normally consider eyewitnesses not reasonable?
No.
You didn't interview him because he said that it wasn't Archer's fault, didn't you?
Yes, he did.
You want to see Archer convicted, don't you?
I just want to see justice served.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Does the state have any redirect?
Mr. Drake, do you usually carry grudges for people you give tickets to?
I have no reason to.
And, Mr. Drake, you did get a statement from R.J. Castle, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Did that bring up any questions for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then this witness is excused. Does the state have any further witnesses to present at this time? All right. Does the state rest at this time? Yes. All right, the defense may call their first witness.
The defense calls Jordan Archer.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The defense calls Jordan Archer.
Jordan Archer, please come forward. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, I do.
Will you please state your name for the court?
My name is Jordan Archer,
And how old are you?
22.
And what is your current occupation?
I am now studying criminology.
The witness will have to speak up just a bit. The court's hard of hearing, okay?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm studying criminology.
At what college?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay. You went to Western State University?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm very nervous here.
Where were you on the night of July 4th, 1997?
I was at a party.
And what type of party was it?
It was a party, just 4th of July party. Everybody was invited from all around. It was really fun.
And you were there with whom?
I was there with Chris Bishop, my friend, my best friend.
And were there any prior arrangements that you had made with Chris Bishop?
Yes, I was to be the designated driver.
Okay. So that's to say you did not have any beer that night?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
At approximately 1 o'clock that night, what happened?
Well, I was just driving along, and I saw this possum in the middle of the road, so I swerved, and I kept seeing a bunch of possums, and there was another car coming at me, which there was a long distance between me and the other car, so I saw the possum and I swerved and I came back, and then I saw the other car head into the tree.
And was this accident your fault?
No, it wasn't.
And why was this not your fault?
Because it was, I swerved into the other lane and I swerved back, but I had so much distance between me and the other car that, they had a lot of room to get back.
No further questions, Sharon.
The state may cross-examine this witness.
You and Bishop have been looking forward to this 4th of July party, hadn't you?
Yes, I had.
And you were at this party right before the accident happened?
Yes.
And this was a pretty big party for Cedarville during the year, wasn't it?
Yes.
And all your old buddies from high school were going to be there?
Yes, ma'am.
And Deputy Sam Drake found beer cans in the back of your car, correct?
Yes.
And you claimed that those beer cans were Chris Bishop's?
Yes.
And you admit that there were things that you could have done that might have prevented this accident, correct?
Excuse me,
You admit that there were things that you could have done that might have prevented the accident, correct?
I'm sure I could have.
And no further questions.
Does the defense have any redirect examination of this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Deputy Sam Drake searched your car on the night of the accident, correct?
Yes.
And you did not have any beer that night?
No.
And the beer belonged to Chris Bishop?
Yes.
After the accident happened, do you think the accident was your fault?
No, I do not.
There's nothing you would change about that accident?
No.
Thank you. No further questions.
Did that line of questioning bring up any recross? All right. This witness is excused. The defense may call their next witness.
The defense called R.J. Castle. Will R.J. Castle please come forward? Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Will you please state your name for the court?
R.J. Castle,
And where do you live?
rural Route 2 in Cedarville, Oklahoma.
Do you live on a farm?
Yes.
How long have you lived on your farm?
All my life, except for the 4 years when I went to college.
What were you doing on the early morning of July the 5th, 1997?
I was in my field.
And why were you in your field at such an unusual time?
Well, because that day, since it was the 4th of July, I went to my uncle's house and we had a 4th of July celebration. And it was so hot that day, just went out there later that night.
While you were in your field, did you see something unusual occur?
Yes.
And can you tell the court what you saw?
I saw a Dodge swerve and get back into its lane, and at the same time the Nissan, which was going in the opposite direction, swerved, could not get back in its lane, and hit a tree.
So you observed a Dodge swerve. How many times did you observe that?
Several.
Several times. And did you observe the Nissan run into the tree?
Yes, I did.
What side of the road was the Dodge on when the Nissan ran off the road and into the tree?
It was on the left lane. It swerved into the left lane, but it was on the right. I mean, in America, we drive on the right side of the road.
Do you think it was necessary for the Nissan to run off the road to avoid hitting the Dodge?
Could you please repeat?
Do you think it was necessary for the Nissan to swerve off the road to avoid hitting the Dodge?
No.
So, in your opinion, do you believe that it was the Dodge's fault?
No, I do not.
Okay. Have you observed possums in your area?
Yes.
Have you seen several dead possums on the road?
Yes, I have.
Is it possible that the reason you observed Mr. Archer swerve was because he had come in contact with the possum?
Yes.
After the accident occurred, what did you do?
I called 911 for my tractor, and then I got out and went to the accident.
When you went down to the scene of the accident, did you talk to anyone?
Yes, I did.
Who did you speak to?
The driver of the Dodge.
And how was he behaving?
He seemed like he was in a state of shock.
Well, did you detect a smell of alcohol on either the passenger or the driver of the Dodge?
Yes, I did.
Was there a difference in the smell between the two individuals?
Yes, there was.
Can you explain to the court what that distinct smell was, in your opinion?
It seemed like the passenger of the Dodge, it seemed like the smell was coming from his breath, but it seemed like the driver, it just was like a faint smell on his clothing.
So, in your opinion, did the driver of the Dodge appear to be intoxicated?
He had some of the symptoms, but, I'm not sure.
Have you ever been to any parties where alcohol is served?
Yes, I have.
What are some of the symptoms of someone that is intoxicated?
Slurred speech, staggering, red eyes.
Are you aware of someone that is in a state of shock?
Yes, I am.
What are some of the complications of that?
Well, slurred speech, you might not be able to focus very well, have a hard time saying things.
So is it possible to mistake a person in shock to have been drinking?
Yes.
Okay, no further questions.
State may cross-examine this witness.
It was dark when you were working your field, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
And County Road 1 isn't lit, is it?
No, it is not.
Did you see any animal in the road?
No, I did not.
Okay, Archer's eyes were bloodshot that night, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
And Archer was mumbling to himself, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
In fact, Archer smelled of beer, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
And Jordan Archer was also staggering around, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Jordan Archer's eyes were bloodshot, he was staggering around, he smelled of alcohol, and he was mumbling to himself. Is that correct?
Yes.
No further questions.
Any redirect examination of this witness?
Okay, in your opinion, do you believe that Mr. Archer was under the influence of alcohol?
No, I do not.
In your opinion, was it Mr. Archer's fault, the accident?
I don't believe it was his fault.
No further questions.
Did that bring up any questions on recross-examination? No. All right. This witness is excused. The defense may call the next witness.
The defense calls Chris Bishop.
Will Chris Bishop please come forward?
I swear to my head. He said, oh, no, like this happened to me.
What point of view did you have of the accident?
The car ran into the tree.
Were you able to see this accident through the front window of the car or the back window? Or the side?
Back window.
So it's safe to say that as you were driving down the road,
Okay, he said I ran back.
as you drove down the road, the other car came at the opposite direction, and you were able to turn around after the car had passed you and see the accident? In your opinion, is this accident Jordan Archer's fault?
Let's examine the witness.
You and Jordan Archer have been friends since high school, haven't you? And on the night of the party, you say that Jordan Archer was talking to everybody, didn't you?
Yes.
In fact, you lost track of him. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he had to come find you when he was ready to go, didn't he?
Yes.
And this was one of the biggest parties of the year in Cedarville, wasn't it? Now, you say that you know for a fact that Jordan Archer wasn't drunk that night? Yet you weren't with him every second of that night, were you?
This man right here was talking with his old friend, and he did it.
You also say that you weren't drunk. But you were drinking, is that correct? Mr. Bishop, are you an expert on alcohol? Everyone? Okay. It was almost 1 a.m. when you left, is that correct? And you say the first time that Jordan swerved the car, you asked if he was trying to kill the both of you. Is that correct?
No.
You didn't say that?
No.
Are you aware that it says that in your testimony? Are you aware that it says that the first time that Jordan swerved the car, you asked if he was trying to kill the both of you in your testimony?
He said he tried to avoid killing an animal on the road.
Okay. And you hadn't been paying attention to the road because you were relaxing, enjoying the music. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you said you saw the other car approaching?
Yes.
And after the wreck, you asked Jordan what he had done, didn't you?
I asked him on his phone, he said he didn't want to get an animal on the road.
So you saw the other car approaching, and you had to ask Jordan what happened. Is that correct? At what time?
Yeah, he said, when he dropped that.
After the wreck? Okay, after the wreck. Okay. After the wreck, you said that you saw, well, during the wreck, you said that you saw the other car approaching, and you had to ask Jordan what happened after the wreck. Is that correct? Okay. And Jordan replied by saying, "Oh no, why me?" after the wreck. Is that correct? Now, you say that when you answered Sam Drake's questions, your head hurt, didn't it? In fact, you were so drunk that you didn't even know what you said to Sam Drake, did you? Now, they found empty beer cans in Jordan Archer's car, didn't they?
Said we found
correct. You were so drunk that you were staggering around, and you don't remember what you said when Sam Drake questioned you, do you? And you say that the only thing you know is that the accident wasn't Jordan's fault. Is that correct?
Any redirect examination?
No, Your Honor.
All right. This witness is excused. The defense may call the next witness.
Defense has no more witnesses.
Does the defense rest?
Yes.
All right. The state may do closing arguments.
May it please the court. I am Lindsay Manning, counsel for the prosecution. Today, you have heard the case of a wild party that one man took too far. This young man was out to have a good time. Testimony of Pat Falcon has proven for you today that Jordan Archer has always had things go his way. He wasn't used for work. Never mind. He never expected to cause an accident the night or early morning hours of July 5th. But then again, most drunk drivers usually don't. That night, Jordan Archer and his lifelong friend, Chris Bishop, had attended a reunion party. Now, we have proven through testimony today that this party was wild. It was crazy. And the beer was flowing. Now, Archer's best friend testified that Jordan Archer drinks like a fish. He also stated that Jordan Archer was not drunk this night. He never said he was sober. He only stated he was not drunk. Now, Pat Falcon has also proven for us today that Jordan Archer was seen repeatedly at the party, and each and every time he had a beer cup in his hand. Yet, Jordan Archer gave no second thought to getting behind the wheel of his car that night. He never even considered the consequences of invading the other lane of the oncoming car. You heard Archer testify herself that there was nothing she would have done differently. There was nothing she regretted about this night. She also stated that she didn't think it was a big deal. Now I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, how can taking a man's life not be a big deal? She said that she wouldn't have changed a thing. She wouldn't have changed Mark Griffin losing his life. Sounds a little cold. Now, through the testimony of Jesse Eagle, we have proven Archer's car swerved several times, at least 3 or 4, prior to the accident. Now, although we have proven that this was a clear, beautiful night and the stars were out, the possums causing Jordan Archer to swerve were never seen. Now, why would Jesse Eagle and Mark Griffin have not seen these possums? Better yet, why wouldn't they have seen these possums when they had traveled at least 10 miles down County Road 1? They hadn't seen a single animal. And R.J. Castle, why, in the near field, why had he not seen this possum? Now, we have also proven today that Deputy Sam Drake is overly qualified to testify to the intoxicated state of Jordan Archer. We have proven today that he was obviously very mentally and physically impaired. Drake stated for you that he was unable to walk, his speech was slurred, he smelled of alcohol, his eyes were watery and bloodshot. Archer stated himself that he couldn't focus. Ladies and gentlemen, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and walks like a duck, let's face it, it's a duck. Now, Jordan Archer was given 2 chances to clear his name. He was offered not only a field sobriety test, but also a breathalyzer test at the station. But yet he refused both. Now I ask you, why would a young man who has his whole life ahead of him refuse taking these tests that could clear him of these severe charges if he had nothing to hide? Now, we have proven for you today that the reason Jordan Archer did not take these tests was because he feared he would fail. Now, I ask that you not be swayed by the biased testimony given on behalf of the defense by Chris Bishop. Bishop is Archer's best friend. He wouldn't testify to the detriment of his own friend. What are friends for? And I pray that you find Jordan Archer responsible for all actions this night. I pray that beyond a reasonable doubt, you find him guilty of driving irresponsibly, guilty of causing the death of Mark Griffin, and thereby guilty of first-degree manslaughter. Thank you.
The defense may close.
Excuse me, I'm a little stopped up. If you can't understand what I'm saying, I'm sorry, but I'll try my best. In the last few minutes, you've heard the prosecution plead their case. They've told you what they think is enough proof and evidence to sentence my client and prove his guilt. Now, we're here to show you that there are more than reasonable and numerous doubts that my client is in fact guilty. Now, they first brought to your attention the testimony of Sam Drake, who brought out 2 main points. First, he wants you to know that my client was uneasy at the time of the accident. Now, to me, this seems like a very typical reaction to an accident with a driver who's never been in an accident before. Mr. Archer had never been in an accident. Now, Mr. Drake also testified that Mr. Archer refused to take the breathalyzer test or any other test in order to see if he was under the influence of alcohol at the time of the accident. Mr. Archer did not want to have anything to do with Mr. Drake and felt like he had been taken advantage of by the deputy on other occasions. Mr. Archer also, in fact, looks back with 20/20 hindsight, realizing that he should have taken the test. And the truth is, we don't know what was going through Jordan Archer's mind when he refused this test. But this proves nothing, much less that my client was under the influence. Jesse Eagle's testimony was used by the prosecution to show that Mr. Archer's behavior at the time of the reaction, that Mr. Archer's behavior at the time said that Jordan was just sitting in the car, but most importantly, that what Mr. Eagle's testimony brought out was that the fact that Mr. Griffin had been driving for 5 hours after spending the entire day playing with his niece and nephew in the hot sun and was sunburned and sore. He was also driving in an unfamiliar area. These conditions could not have helped Mr. Griffin, and most likely he was in no physical condition to be driving this late at night. Pat Falcon was the last witness brought by the prosecution, but the key to Pat Falcon's testimony is that she never saw Jordan Archer consume any alcohol. Our witness, Jordan Archer, told you that he had not been drinking that night. He was wrong when he didn't comply to a blood alcohol test, and he realized that later, that he should have taken the test, but it was too late to take it. Chris Bishop was another key witness that testified that he never saw Jordan Archer take a drink the entire night, and he spent a great deal of time with Mr. Archer that evening. State said that Mr. Bishop stated that he was not drunk, but if you're not drunk, so I guess you're probably going to be sober. And I guess the state didn't hear my witness when he stated that there was not much alcohol. They said that he had testified that the beer was flowing that night. Now, R.J. Castle was the final witness that was unbiased, except for the fact that he didn't even want the alumni to come have the party. He had a clear view and stated that there appeared to be no reason for Griffin to run off the road, and had plenty of time before the oncoming car was a danger. He also testified that it was very common for possums to be running in the road during this time of year. I know that there is no evidence that Mr. Archer was under the influence. They haven't even proven the things that they said they were going to prove. The state has the burden of proof, and all we have to show is that there is a more than reasonable doubt that my client's guilty. They haven't even proven the things that in their closing they said that they brought into testimony and proved. Now, I trust that you'll be able to see this that my client is not responsible, and that you will find him innocent of manslaughter in the first degree. Thank you.